Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed has been out for a little bit now. Some people have finished it, some people are still going through it, but now I need to talk about some things because it's been driving me insane. If you were there live when I was streaming the game, you might have seen that I was a bit disappointed with the ending. Now, the entire experience in itself was incredible, it was absolutely insane, and I'm going to give a brief, spoiler-free review really quick, and then I'm going to get into all the spoiler discussions and give all my entire thoughts. Let me start by saying when I first saw the trailers, it was a lot to comprehend. Like, I didn't expect them to go this much into the fan service route, and while they didn't bombard us with it the entirety of the DLC, I was still shocked to see old protagonists like Shulk and Rex, so that was really cool, and the way they were introduced along with these new characters was really awesome. I'm someone who really enjoys continuity. I love seeing characters I love grow up, or just a long time passing in a series I love or games I love, and they just keep the lore and story and characters going. I got that with Future Redeemed, as Rex is probably my second favorite protagonist ever, and Shulk is really high up there as well. So seeing them older and going through this storyline was kind of a dream come true, and it was weird because finishing base game of Xenoblade 3, I thought I was going to get like a prequel that has to do with the base game characters and all that stuff. I did not expect any of this. I did not expect Rex coming out with dual-wielding Aegis swords. The new added mechanics, primarily the Unity strikes, are such a fun gameplay mechanic, and they made the combat more simple and in its entirety. Like, the base game has a lot more to it, but this combat in Future Redeemed is really damn fun. This game wants you to use your Unity combos when you launch an enemy, primarily focusing on that, which is actually kind of funny because dazing the enemy was kind of ass after early game in the base game, so they're like, screw that, let's just launch everybody. And then when you do that, you get these special attacks at the end, like these special explosions, and it's just absolute eye and ear candy. I love the sound design for these. The only problem was the balancing at times. Rex is just absolutely broken, making the other team members feel a bit weak sometimes, but hey, Rex is broken, I'm not complaining too much. I really like that they did a classic JRPG skill tree, kind of just because it's a smaller DLC, so they shortened it down, but it works really well here. The only issue, and it's an issue, but I think it works in this DLC, to unlock more of these and accessory slots and all this stuff, you need to go out and explore or do side quests. So if you don't do this stuff and you want to just see the story, you're going to be missing a lot of your skill tree. Now, this is fun when you explore something and you find it on your own and get rewarded and you're like, oh, that was awesome. But if it was a full-on Xenoblade game, this is not the way they should do it, primarily because they're forcing you to explore or do side quests, where side quests and exploring are much better when they're optional and whenever you want to do it at your own pace. Other than that, though, everything about the DLC was beautiful. The areas were fun to explore. The music was godly, as always. Specifically, the area themes in this go really hard. I absolutely love them. Plenty of cool side quests that go back to nostalgia or just super cool callbacks from the previous games if you've played them. Now, I'm going to get into the ending stuff and basically all my thoughts on the DLC and where Xenoblade may be going from here. So there will be spoilers. I'm going to give y'all like 10 seconds to get on out of here. So the beginning has Rex and Shulk yelling at Alvis. Yeah, it's already crazy. It's been like 3 seconds. And then you got Z in the corner here, which makes it even funnier because Z looks like he's just trying to hang out with the squad. He's not doing shit, but he's just kind of there. So they're yelling at Alvis saying that, are you sure this is what you want to do? He's a machine. He's not going to reply. Basically setting up already that Alvis is the villain. This is already pretty crazy, and in the previews for it, it gave me goosebumps because Alvis was like this awesome, weird character, but then after Xenoblade 1, it's like, oh, he's not going to show up again. But there was this ever bit of you were just like, he might show up again. They're probably going to use him, especially when they changed his necklace in the definitive version to resemble the core crystal. We then meet our new protagonist, which is actually pretty crazy because the DLC, if you do a little bit of the side stuff and basically stay on the main route, you'll clock in at about 20 hours. So they managed to introduce a new protagonist and side characters in this small story. Matthew is absolutely fantastic. So he's the great-grandson of Noah and Mio, which is actually pretty crazy, and he's looking for his sister, Niall. Hopefully I said that correctly. And he's running around with this girl named A, who is the conscience of Alvis made into a physical person. It works. I mean, Xenoblade has done crazier things. I buy it. To be honest, there's a lot more stuff that's way more important, and I'm curious to look at all the deep lore videos that some other content creators go into once this is all over. I like to review, critique, and have discussions. If anything, I'm more of a combat guy than a lore guy, but I'm totally rambling at this point. Anyways, Xenoblade has a lot of story beats, a lot of story elements where you have to look at the deep lore and details. So just know this is a broad overview of everything. I'm not going to go into every story detail and try to figure out exactly what they were trying to say. So at this point, they see a bunch of Agnes and Kavesi soldiers fighting, and it ends up being someone named Nicole and someone named Glimmer, two other brand new characters to this DLC. Matthew then proceeds to slam the ground and then chuck Glimmer right onto Nicole's ass. It was actually hilarious, and all the seeds leading up to this brought a lot of characterization for all of them. Let's talk about the new characters. So Matthew was my favorite. I feel like he got the most screen time, the most character arc in this DLC, and he honestly just cracked me up. I absolutely loved his voice actor. He's a newcomer, so that's super cool. Go show him some love on Twitter. It's actually pretty crazy how much I love these characters with the little amount of time we had with them. Matthew came up on top, Glimmer right next to him, A right behind her, and then Nicole at the bottom. But Nicole is not even bad. These are just based on the screen time and just kind of how I felt about them. They're actually super interesting. Glimmer acts just like Pyra, obviously being Rex and Pyra's daughter. She has the same attitude as Mithra, but she has all the same flames and energy as Pyra. The father-daughter dynamic between her and Rex was actually really interesting because I didn't expect it. Rex is an easygoing guy through Xenoblade 2. He's really friendly and easy to get along with. So seeing how he has a bit of trouble kind of talking with Glimmer and he goes straight to just parenting her and like, oh, you're grounded, basically in the Xenoblade sense. It was really weird to see that and watch that grow over the arc of the DLC. That brought a lot of fun interactions, and I wanted to see the whole time, are they gonna make up, or not necessarily make up, but just become closer in that bond between father and daughter. Nicole is an anxious little dude. I was actually surprised at how good they portrayed being a little nervous and anxious, and Nicole is really cool to watch grow through this DLC. Honestly, he has the least amount of screen time and dialogue, and that's why he's kind of at the bottom. But when they showed him, I like how smart he is. I like that he's a bit scared to do some things and jump into danger, but he starts to grow, especially with the friends he has right now to teach him a bit more things. And then A has the luxury of having a really good voice actor and just good lines. I enjoyed watching A, even though she didn't have much character to her as well, kind of like Nicole. Just not much screen time and things to do, but she was still fun to watch. And her dynamic with Matthew was hilarious. I like how she always yells at him to get up and stop sleeping late. So GG, Monolith, you managed to bring some new characters into a small DLC and make us care about them, even while having the stars of the show, older Rex and older Shulk, which we're going to talk about right now. Now, one thing I find hilarious is through the community, Twitter, all the socials and crap, I see a bunch of people turning around, oh, I love Rex, he's so badass. It's like, honestly, he is the same character from Xenoblade 2. He even has some of the same lines. He calls back to his mission and purpose in Xenoblade 2. His design just looks a lot cooler, and he's buff. So it's kind of funny how people just turned around on him when he was supposed to be goofy and kind of goofy looking in Xenoblade 2. And that brings me to Shulk as well. People think Rex's entrance in this DLC is so much better than Shulk's, and I'm like, dude, you don't need explosions and a grand entrance every time, I love Shulk's laid-back wisdom attitude. He reminds me of Dunban, someone he looked up to in Xenoblade 1. Honestly, for Rex and Shulk, they did him absolutely perfect for me, and that's the most I wanted out of this DLC. So thank you, Monolith. Especially with how Rex looks now, he could have acted a bit differently than how he used to, but no, he is identical. Same old awesome Rex we love. And honestly, I loved Shulk's entrance as well, even if it wasn't as bombastic as Rex. This whole squad turns around, they're like, what are we gonna do, Shulk? And it just pans the camera up to him, serious attitude. This dude runs shit. He probably runs the whole Colony 9. That's what I thought. I loved both their entrances, both their characters as grown adults. It also helped so well with Shulk and his son. When Nicole was there helping Shulk with his robotic arm and fixing it, and Shulk just looks over and gives him that proud dad smile, it really hit me, and that was like the first part of the DLC where I'm like, wow, I am playing a game with these protagonists I loved so much, and they really brought them back. You and your squad are on a quest to go to Prison Island, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to go back to Prison Island. It literally has the worst enemies. But then it was also super cool to go back there, so I was like, hell yeah. You then get a middle scene where it basically drops a bunch of lore about A, how she's Alpha's conscience, and basically they started calling Alvis Alpha in this, so when they talk about the villain, they're calling him Alpha these days. I love how much Monolith Soft respects and loves these games and the fans. They have so many little throwbacks, Easter eggs in here. This is all basically a giant love letter, I feel like. It's really cool how a lot of people look at this now as the giant trilogy or saga that Takahashi wanted to do back in the day with Xenogears that he never got to do. Xenogears was just one game, and then Xenosaga only had 3 games that got cut short. And then you got Xenoblade, Xenoblade Future Connected, Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade 2 Torna, Xenoblade 3, Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed. There's your 6-part saga. But honestly, it's just crazy to see this all come together, and it's like a giant bow wrapped on top of this story that I loved so much, and I just think Takahashi and the rest of Monolith Soft just has a lot of love for this series and the fans. Now let's talk about arguably the most important part of the entire DLC, the final boss and ending. So it turns out that N did not actually kill Granddad. He did, but basically, Niall was taken capture by Alpha. He basically went into her the same way that Zanza was inside Shulk in Xenoblade 1. Matthew obviously lost his mind, and there's actually a good arc here that gave N more character and showed that, he wasn't an absolute psychopath. About 99.9% psychopath. Now, a good amount of you are probably wondering, when is he going to talk about what disappointed him? Now, the very ending itself, not the actual final stretch and final boss, but after the credits and all that stuff, that is the part that disappointed me a little bit. Most of the lore dumps and big surprises happen on the way to the final boss through the final boss. The ending is actually a bit short compared to everything else. At this point, I've come to terms with it, and as you can see by the title, the DLC in itself is spectacular, and I keep replaying it at this point. But that ending was ruined for me by 2 things, I think. One, my expectations were way too high. I usually don't have high expectations like this when going into something, but I did not expect this DLC in the first place, and when I saw Rex saying, "Let's show him a thing all 3, I was ready to just see everything. Name drops, complete fan service, and we didn't get that. They barely name dropped anything. It was almost like they were scared to name drop. I don't understand this, to be honest. Like, we don't need every bit of fan service, but if they were going in on it like this, why didn't they just go all in? I would have loved to heard Shulk say Dunban, or even Rhine, or see what happened to Pyra and Mithra. Now, it is shown that it is probably the fist gloves that Matthew uses that is the core crystal of Numa. But still, I wanted to see more explicit stuff. I wanted the picture at the end of Xenoblade 3 explained more in depth. I just wanted a lot more answers, and I honestly was left with more questions by the end of this. The other thing that I think ruined it a little bit was I only played Xenoblade. If you played Xenosaga, the hype moments are extremely higher. If you're watching the spoiler section of this video, you probably saw what happened, and they name dropped a character from Xenosaga, Dmitry Yuriv. Hopefully I said that correctly. But my chat had to tell me that at the time, because this was obviously just blowing right past me. And as insane as that is, and I'm like so happy for the Xenoblade series or Xeno series in general, and for those fans, I only played Xenoblade, so I was looking for more stuff to finish up Xenoblade's arc. All this stuff is super awesome and things, but I didn't get enough of the Xenoblade stuff at the end, I felt like, whereas the Xenosaga fans, and I think they even mentioned stuff for Xenoblade X or even Gears, I'm not fully sure on that. I feel like more people need to go into the lore and figure that out. But for sure, Xenosaga, especially with the end when they had a scene mimicking the end of Xenosaga 3, apparently. I actually kind of stayed away from that stuff because I want to play through those games myself. I've actually gotten motivation to do them, and I've actually started Xenogears. But in general, it was a cool ending. There's a lot of people who did love it and get hyped. It was just slightly disappointing for me. But you know what wasn't disappointing? The final boss. One of my favorite things about JRPGs and the entire genre is how obnoxious and cool the final boss buildups are and the final bosses themselves. And I have to say, this might come up on top as one of my favorites of all time. It even has a reimagination of Zanza's theme, bringing it all the way back to the beginning. I'll let my reaction speak for itself.
Regrettable, Matthew.
Oh god. When the JRPG villain says regrettable, it's game over.
But very well. The olden
Bro, is his voice getting deeper?
Olden life, your olden notions.
What?
It's a successor to Zanza's. Bro, the guy in the drums is having the time of his life. Bro, what is this guy turning into? Bro, this guy just went Shin Megami Tensei? What the fuck is that? And he's got a Monado. Literally one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and that's what I wanted out of this. It's so Xenoblade, it just spews craziness. I love it. So I was definitely satisfied with the end portions. At the time of streaming, though, I was just like, what's going on? I want more, you know. So it is what it is. I absolutely loved the DLC as a whole. It did justice to Rex, Shulk, and everyone that was really important to me. Yeah, I wanted a few more name drops like Pyra, Mithra, my boy Rhine. It's pretty crazy where the series is gonna go from here. I honestly believe instead of a Xenoblade 4, we might even get a Xenosaga 4 or something like that connecting the worlds, because now there's supposedly one universe, so they could call it Xenosaga 4, Xenoblade 4, Xeno whatever. But the thing is, they could make it one whole world after this, and the things about Xenosaga coming in, they could remaster 1 through 3, them bringing it back means a whole lot. It means they're still in their brains, it's in the picture. They could totally bring back Xenosaga. I also do not think this is the end of Rex and Shulk, and possibly like Nia and other characters, because at the end of Xenoblade 3, Nia says we'll see them again or we'll see them soon, and at the end of Future Redeemed, Rex and Shulk said we'll see you again, I promise. A promise is a promise, you know, so they might come back as even older, as spirits, who knows, but I don't think their characters are necessarily done. Whether it is, I'm super excited and I can't wait to see what Monolith brings us next. They got a crazy story in the palm of their hands. An absolutely wild story tied up in this DLC that brought a bunch of new fun combat mechanics, an insane story, new arcs for our favorite characters like Rex and Shulk, some background on new characters, and a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much, Monolith Soft, for all of this. It is absolutely crazy. I finally got over my butthurtness with the ending, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. And I can't wait to watch some lore videos, so that will be really cool. If you guys wanted to see my entire reaction and live playthrough of the ending of this game, I'll have a link to it in my second channel where I have all my VODs for my Twitch, so definitely go check that out if you want to see every single reaction to the end of Future Redeemed. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. I love bringing discussions and reviews to you guys, so if you enjoy my channel, please drop a sub and a like. It really helps me out a lot. And drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of the DLC, what you think of my opinions. And yeah, guys, this DLC was fantastic, and Xenoblade is always showing how crazy they are as a JRPG series. You guys are awesome. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.